In today's economy, more people than ever are looking to buy and sell businesses. But how do you do it? Welcome to The Deal Board, presented by Transworld Business Advisors. Straight talk about real deals and real people. Listen to stories, interviews, and expert advice to help your business sale, merger, or acquisition process. Now, here are your business exit experts, Andy and JT.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We have a great episode at the Deal Board podcast for you today because we're talking about
podcasting. Yes.
Right. So we have Seth Greene. We have a great interview with him. He's had a podcast for a long time. He also helps people market and get their podcasts out there. So it's a great interview. But we wanted to talk about our podcast here and the thought process, why people are still podcasting all over the place.
Like, I don't remember how many millions. What did you say?
4.5 million.
4.5 million podcasts. And how many people are subscribers?
They said there's over 500 million.
500 million people listening to podcasts. And they range from like 12 years old to 64 years old or some
that's, I guess,
crazy spread there, right?
That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and it seems to be a young person's game. Like young persons.
The podcasters.
The young person's thing that they listen to podcasts.
Yes.
So it's over 60% of young people right up through the age of 55 listen to podcasts. Over 60%.
Like, hey, you leave young people up to 55.
Yeah, and then it drops.
We're both over 55.
I know, and then it drops off. It drops off to about 30-something%. But that's still a huge amount of people are tuning in the podcast, and the advertisers are following.
I think it's because it's one of the fastest growing media formats.
Yes.
And it has been over the years. You know, you think about how long has podcasting been around now? 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah.
Since it's really, but now it's taken hold. Like everybody and their brother's got a podcast on something.
I think it's good, what we're seeing out there in the world. And I think we wanted to talk about this, why you should have a podcast.
Right.
Because it is about making content and it being able to be found and searched and all those good things.
Right. Well, it's an outreach platform, but it's searchable.
Right.
It builds a certain amount of credibility, establishes you as an expert in your field, whatever that field happens to be.
Right.
And continually generating new content, new evergreen content. It's one of the best lead generators out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, in order to try to make those short clips, those short little stories and everything on YouTube and on Facebook and on Instagram,
Yep. Right.
It seems like the best way to do that is just have a long form.
Right. And then they cut it into pieces.
And
just repurpose all that content over and over again. I think that's right. Yeah.
I mean, you went to a conference recently where influencers were running the conference.
They were running the conference. They had video folks doing, recording of everything. They didn't stream the content, but they recorded all the content. And now, several weeks later, you can see it all online, just reusing the video clips, the images, and then, as you said, cutting it up into pieces. And now they're making 15 and 30-second shorts of some of that content that was being covered at the event.
Yeah, you're seeing some of the most popular, content podcasts out there, whether it be Joe Rogan or the Kelsey brothers.
Right.
I mean, they're getting huge.
And it's interesting,
numbers.
How you see everybody do it differently. Like some people have this kind of a microphone set up. Some people, it's just the person's head. Some people, it's this thing where there's two people going on. Some, they're sitting in a chair and they're interviewing somebody else in the chair. I know you've done a couple different versions.
Yeah. I mean, we've certainly, leveraged things like Riverside.fm and of course Zoom. And I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we've used to try to bring guests on as well and have like that clear kind of connection. But we've found that, just like meetings, there's no better kind of format than being in front of someone.
No, but I like the fact that you brought up the guest piece because I think the consistency is one of the takeaways that Seth talks about.
Yeah.
Consistently doing it and having guests on there because that's really what gets audience engagement. Like there's so many times they want to listen to the same person espousing something. But if you want audience growth, bring in new people, from different industries, things that tack into what you do, or things that are completely different from what you do, and you'll grow your audience that way.
Yeah. So I think it's still a good idea, even though there's 4.5 million of them. It's still a good idea to go out there and start a podcast.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The kind of takeaways from all this is you got to be consistent.
Yes.
I mean, I'm thinking at least every other week. You got to do it at least a couple times a month.
Yeah.
And then you have to promote it. I mean, it's like anything. There's a lot of noise out there, and cutting it up and putting it on YouTube, putting it on Facebook, and putting it on TikTok, whatever it is,
right.
You got to get it out there.
And I think I like what you guys did in the beginning when I first started working with you guys, doing the annual goal getting thing. But then I would get something from your admin and your marketing team, like, okay, JT, here's the snippet and here's the link, and you could then I could repurpose it on all of my social media. So I'm touching people that you guys never would have touched.
Right. That's part of the game too, is like bringing on the guests so you could leverage their audience as well.
That's right.
And connect with them. So, I mean, listen, podcasting is a great way to continue to connect.
Yep. Builds long-term relationships.
Yep.
Gains credibility because now you're the expert. People see you online and they think that guy must know what he's talking about.
And we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Apparently you and I have fooled people for a long time.
Yes. And we're going to keep bringing in more guests too.
Right.
And we're going to keep doing like what we have right after Seth. Of course, we have our deal of the week.
And listing of the week.
Yeah. So, we like bringing that because it's always different content.
That's right.
So, and we're getting a lot more faces and voices on here too. Right. So we'll keep doing it.
So you've landed on the Deal Board podcast. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Transworld Business Advisors is the world's largest business brokerage and mergers and acquisitions firm with over 1,000 brokers and nearly 250 offices worldwide. Transworld's team handles thousands of business sales every year. To be connected with a qualified business broker or learn more about the buying and selling process, visit tworld.com or call 800-205-7605.
Everybody, welcome back to another great episode and interview here on the Deal Board podcast. And I am fortunate to have Seth Greene from Market Domination. Not only have I been on his podcast, now he's getting to be on mine. I think you were on once before as well. But Seth's company does a lot of different things. One of them is write books, which he helped me write my book, Closing the Deal, which I was very thankful for. But today, we want to talk about telling your story through a podcast. So, Seth, welcome, number one.
Thank you so much to having me back. It is an honor to be back.
Yes. So let's jump in and talk about podcasts. They've been around for a while, right?
Yes, that is very true. I actually started my first podcast in 2007. The very first audio podcast aired in 2004. So I was early, and I was an early adopter.
You were. I think we've been around for 8 years. This has been 7, 8 years. So not quite that big of a run, but yeah, it's a form that continues to grow, I think.
Yes, it is. The fastest growing form of media right now in the country, at least in the United States. There are more people listening to podcasts now. It is the advertising dollars are surpassing terrestrial FM radio. It is surpassing satellite radio. More ad dollars are moving from every other platform to podcasting. So it is, every time someone asks me about it, I'm like, this is the new ground floor of podcasting. It's not too late and it's not oversaturated.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I think there's hundreds of thousands of podcasts, I think, out there.
There are literally 1.9 million.
Wow.
However, there is a large chunk of them that are inactive. They do what's called pod fading, which is, it's so common, there's an industry term for it, whereas before you get to your 10th episode, you quit and you pod fade because you didn't go viral, you didn't become the next Joe Rogan, you didn't make a ton of money in the first 2 months, so you give up. So thank you for not giving up, because you've been at this a long time, and that shows part of why you're successful.
Yeah, I believe, it's a little bit of long tail marketing, right? We have a very specific audience we're going after. And a lot of times, what I think is going to happen, and we're going to talk about this on a future episode, is all this content is going to get used and indexed. and having it out there is really important.
Absolutely. The beauty and the curse of the internet, right, is it lives forever. But that means if you do it right, you've got an evergreen marketing asset. It's not like a Facebook ad or a LinkedIn ad that goes stale in a week or two and you always have to create a new one. I've had leads come into our business from podcast. My most popular podcast video is literally, man, I think it's 9 or 10 years old.
Wow.
And I still get leads every single month from people like, I found this interview you did on YouTube of this thing and it's awesome and I want to talk. And I'm like, we haven't promoted that in like a decade.
Wow.
It's just organic
I,
traffic.
Yeah, I see some of our podcasts, all of a sudden, like I guess people pass them around or they get indexed or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're popular again, and we have some tried and true subjects that, always seem to continue on, whether it be business valuation or, how to sell my business or buyer information. Those always seem to come up.
I would imagine there are evergreen topics that people will always be interested in. So there are times that it makes sense, as you just alluded to make another episode about the same topic. So I recorded that original video that people keep finding, which I think is 12 rules to become a self-made millionaire. Shame on me, I haven't recorded a new version of that in like the last decade, but given how popular that topic is, I probably should. And you've got stuff that's evergreen, right? Now you could do the same episode about best ways to sell your business and then just make it topical, but make it current events. Right. Best ways to sell your business thanks to the big, beautiful bill, right? Right. Or there's something in the news and you re-record the content and you put a couple new sentences in there and all of a sudden you've got new life and new leads from it.
Right. So what are some of the ways to approach. And I think one of the hardest things, and I think we're here to talk about this today, is people don't realize the work that it takes to kind of not necessarily produce the first 3, like you said, or the first 10. You're all excited, you put it together and you put it out there. But to be consistent and to continually to generate the things it takes to be out there, how can people do that?
I think that's an excellent question. And the easiest way to do that is make the show not about you. And what I mean by that is it needs to be about the other people who can move the needle for your business. No offense, but if all it does is Andy talks about himself, Andy's the only one who's going to care. And Andy's the one who's got to do all the promotional effort. We had back when Stone Cold Steve Austin, the famous wrestler, wanted to start a podcast. And he said, I got decades of stories from being on the road and wrestling. I'm just going to tell my stories and I could do this for years and never run out of stories. And, he was advised, bad idea, at least have a co-host, interview people. It'll be much more. No, I got plenty of stories. And he gets in the studio and literally in the first 15 minutes, there's silence. Like, what happened to the 3 decades of stories and you could ramble on forever? And he's like, yeah, it's a lot harder to just talk by yourself. So I think 1, don't do it yourself. And 2, most importantly, make it an interview show. The most popular shows are people interviewing other people. Think of it like a radio show on your phone. And specifically in the trans world, where we've been able to move the needle for you and others is by having you interview the people you want relationships with. So whether that's a center of influence like an accountant or attorney or a commercial insurance agent, other people who serve the entrepreneurs who are buying or selling businesses, or interviewing those entrepreneurs themselves. You want a high-level decision maker that you think, wow, that guy's the owner of that company is 55. I want to get in before he decides to sell. You might never get in on a cold call if he's not thinking about selling today, but he'll do a podcast interview because it's all about him. And everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Everybody loves to talk about themselves.
Right. So, when talking to yourself and putting together an interview show, number one question I have is, how important is video these days?
YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So if for no other reason, you should record the video version of your show to put it to YouTube. And if you think about promoting your show, you see, if you're on social media at all, I'm sure you see what we call the videograms, the clips, where it's 30 seconds or a minute of the two people talking, and there's probably captions of the question, what they're talking about, of what they're saying. And those videograms and audiograms are huge promotional assets that move the needle in terms of getting other people to listen to your show. So I would video for YouTube, and I would video so you could use the clips. Even if you only use them to promote the audio version of the show, it's a must. And if you have issues, I'm shy, I don't want to be on camera, I would, in the nicest way possible, tell you, get over it. The show isn't about you. I don't care if you have a face for radio. It doesn't matter in today's day and age. In the world of post-COVID Zoom, like everybody's on camera. No one's going to say, oh, I'm not going to do business with that person because they're not as pretty as the other business broker.
Right. Yeah, and that's great advice. So when going out there and deciding on, you want to help the WIFMs, the people who, you're thinking about them and you're thinking about the stories they want to hear, not necessarily your story, and having an interview show. What are some of the modern tools that you're advising people to use to kind of put this all together?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, 99% of the time we're using Zoom. Everybody's familiar with it since COVID. It produces separate video and audio tracks, which makes it easier for editing purposes. And the camera automatically switches back and forth between who is talking. So there's minimal editing on the video side that needs to be done. I would start off with Zoom. There are some higher end tools you can use, like a Riverside FM or something like that. But honestly, will you get a little bit better video and audio quality? Yes. Is the extra work worth it? Maybe not. And I've never had anyone in 18 years of podcasting come to me and say, I love that episode. I was going to hire your company, but you were at this many pixels resolution. And if you had been this much higher, I would have hired you. But now I can't because your resolution wasn't high enough. Nobody says that. So I would think Zoom is fine. Do you want a decent microphone like the one you see that Andy's using? Yes. Do you want a decent webcam? Yes, for the quality of the video. Do you want to do this, if at all possible, can you get hardwired internet so that you are not dependent on Wi-Fi? I'm hardwired for this reason. It produces much better predictable results. If you got to use Wi-Fi, please make sure it's stable. Don't have it cut out on you during the show. Don't use your phone. Use an actual computer. And those are just some of the basics to get, kind of table stakes that I would. Do you need to spend a couple $1,000s on equipment or a studio? Absolutely not. You could probably get away for a couple hundred.
Yeah, I mean, these microphones I'm using are not expensive. The Rhodes, I think they're about $99. My webcam was about less than $100. Again, I always, even internally, it is a Zoom world right now. You're going to be on Zoom or Teams for basically every day of your business if you're in some sort of service business, and not having the camera on your laptop looking up your nose and making sure you have proper lighting. And yes, we try to make sure that when we're in the office and at home, I did hardwire my computers, because you're right. The difference in just, the speed's okay with Wi-Fi, but you're right. The predictability is not good.
Yeah, I've had people cut in and out. I've had people do it they couldn't figure out their audio or their video settings. Practice ahead of time. We're happy to help you practice. Think about your background. A lot of people are using these fake virtual backgrounds or blurring their background. And when I see a fake background, the only thing that I think is, what's really behind it? What are they hiding? If you look at Andy's background on our video right now, that's his actual office. You're seeing my actual office. You can see Andy's guitar collection, right? And if I were trying to bond more with Andy and we didn't already know each other because we've already had the conversation, we would have a separate off-camera conversation about the fact that we both play guitar. So I couldn't see that on a fake virtual. He's got a baseball behind him, right? I couldn't. Right. I want to find out what team he's a fan of, what players he's a fan of. I can't do any of that if you've got a fake virtual background. And the other problem with the virtual backgrounds is then you get pixelated. I did an interview with a guy yesterday who was all excited. He had bought some super fancy autofocus camera, but then the problem was every single time he moved, the camera refocused.
Yeah.
And it ended up looking worse than if he had just had a regular camera or if he had just stood still, right? Then you get the people who use walking desks and then they're bouncing the whole time they do the interview. And I'm like, just sit, stay still. You can talk with your hands if you want, the Italians and the Irish in us, and
Yes.
just think about it like a real interview, because it is.
Yeah. And I appreciate the getting decent equipment. It doesn't have to be that expensive. And I agree, I've used Riverside, I've used StreamYard, I've used a bunch of other things. And just first of all, getting the camera right and trying to get the lighting right with some of those things is not easy. And Zoom seems to have it dialed in. Teams does not have it dialed in yet. They're trying.
Thank you for saying that, so I don't have to.
Yeah, they're getting there. I have to say they're playing catch up, right? So Zoom was out there first, and Zoom has some great recording tools and some great AI tools, and you could keep show notes with the tools. So, but even though it's so quote unquote automated, talk about the value, because there is value of having a production company with you, somebody helping you produce it and distribute it.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing to get right is the initial strategy. Because a lot of people, again, they start podcasting and then they drop off because they thought they were going to make a ton of money. They thought they were going to get a ton of followers right away, and they had no real plan. And I think one of our strong points at Market Domination LLC, .com is we invented the strategy. And I think podcasting is the greatest networking tool ever invented. I can talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime, anywhere on the planet. And the best part is nobody perceives it as a sales call because it's an interview. And I, as the podcast host, am shining a spotlight, no matter how small it is, right? My very first interview in 2007 had 9 listeners and 4 of them were related to me. But I made money out of the other 5 because of the strategy. And it wasn't about advertising and downloads, because your normal Transworld person, your normal podcaster is never going to get enough downloads to generate meaningful advertiser sponsorship revenue. They're not going to get 5, 10, 20, 50, 100,000 downloads an episode. So they're going to get frustrated. But I designed our process, which you've been through. I designed and other Transworld folks have been through. I designed our process to generate profitable relationships, no matter how few people listen to the show. We've had shows where in a year, they maybe had a couple hundred listeners, which you think that's terrible. Why would I keep going? But it was the right couple hundred listeners. It was the perfect direct people. And those shows generated hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue for those hosts. And none of that revenue was based on advertising or sponsorship. So I think the strategy is the most important thing. And our strategy is all based on who has the audience you want. So if I'm a Transworld business advisor, right, as we mentioned, I might want a relationship with a business attorney, a state attorney, a CPA who does business owners. I might want a commercial insurance agent, commercial mortgage broker, all the other people that I call co-opetition. They serve the same business owners you do at Transworld, but they don't compete with you. Those are the folks I would get on my show, and that we've done for other Transworld folks. Those are the folks I would get on, and then I would use our dozen-step direct mail process, which nobody else does, to turn that person from a happy podcast guest into someone who is generating leads for your business, your Transworld business, on a regular and consistent basis. Because that's what it's all about. It's about getting a profitable relationship with my guest so that I then get access, both implied or endorsed, to their database of people I want to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, you mentioned it before, and I think it's really important that you also have somebody that's helping you clip up the episode and promote it on
use.
social
I mean, I know there's a dozen AI programs out there. Please don't use AI, right? As Andy meant, the technology is good. It's just not there yet. It's not ready to replace humans. Even if you use some AI in the process, have a human who knows what they're doing check it. I mean, we have full-time audio editors on staff. That's all they do. We have full-time video editors. We have graphic designers who create the art. We have copywriters who write the show notes, and they've written thousands of them. I mean, we have social media people and marketing people who promote the show. And each person who does one of those things is a subject matter expert at what they do. You're never going to figure all of that out on your own.
No, and AI, you're right. It's so funny. I talk to people, AI, and I'm like, well, tell me how you're using it, practically. And there are some really cool things that are happening with it. And writing articles is certainly a great way to start, because it could help you write a letter and you could clean it up and you could make it sound like yourself. Because I still think you need to have that human intervention of whatever you're asking AI to do. Otherwise, it sounds like it was generated from AI.
Yep.
So I think that's great advice as well. But the other thing you talked about is, it's not seen as a sales call. It's seen as an invitation to share their story and how that might be valuable to other people. And you got to remember, then you're getting the leverage there if you're able to, connect them on social media. You're able to leverage their network.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about in a future episode the amazing software we've got that allows you to import, interact, capture anybody else's social media interaction. So when that business attorney or commercial insurance agent posts about the show because they're bragging about themselves, they're going, look at me, I was on the deal. Like, I will post about this show. I will post everywhere and email my database and say, look at me, I was on the deal board. If Andy had our software and I had 300 of my followers who said, great job, Seth, I'd love to talk about buying a business, whatever. Andy could push a button, import those 300 people, and then start relationship and start dripping on them and start relationships with them and turn them into leads for his business.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I'm looking forward to that episode as well. So as we, continue to kind of talk about podcasting, what should people think about as far as, the frequency? How often should they come out with a podcast? Should they, one of the things is, we're doing our 200th episode recently. And so everybody's like, don't do 200 episodes. You should be doing little series. Like, how best to kind of tackle that?
So I'll see if I remember all the questions you just asked in order. So first one was, how often should you air? The answer to that's easy. It's every week. Because if you have, for example, the 800-pound gorilla is Apple Podcasts. And if you have the Apple Podcast app on your phone and you subscribe to a show, every week when that show airs, Apple has a push notification that pops up on your phone and says, go download and listen to the latest episode of the Deal Board. The problem is they only do that if you air once a week. So if you air every other week, if you air once a month, they do not have the push notification doesn't happen. The episode won't auto download to that person's app or their phone, and you will lose listeners. So at the I would say air every single week. And the answer to the next part of the question is
series, or you just keep continuing what you're doing.
You could break them up into seasons or topic sections. However, I wouldn't reset your show numbers for each one of those. Even if I did season 1 through 50, season 2, 51 through 100, season 3, 100 through 150, because the higher number of episodes you get, the more credibility you've got, and the more staying power there is. So I would much rather have you be on season 4, but it's episode 200, than be on episode 50 of season 4 that no one's going to know how many you've done in total. They might not find the other ones. I want the street cred of going, we're doing a big celebration for our 200. We just had a client do their 300th episode. I've done 1,400.
Wow.
I want the cred of, oh my God, you've done, one of the people I interviewed yesterday was like, I can't believe you've done over 1,000. And I'm like, and you didn't see the other shows that make it total 1,400. So there are people, as you get bigger and bigger guests, who want to know how many episodes you got and how many, like Seth Godin won't do an episode for The Billionaire, won't do an episode of a show that has less than 100. Well, he wants to make sure you're sticking around for a few years. Well, if you've done season 1, 2, and 3 and you air them separately, to him, all he's going to see is 50 or however many are in one season. If you kept the numbers right, then he's going to see, oh, Andy's done almost 300. I'm like, I'll be on his show.
Right. That's great advice. So what am I not asking? What am I leaving out here about podcasting that everybody should know?
Well, I mean, we could talk about it we could do a 3-day seminar all day, every day about it. But I think in this period of time that we've got, I've written a best-selling Amazon book on the topic called The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, How to Turn Warm, Fuzzy Feelings into Cold, Hard Cash. If your listeners want a copy of that at 33% off the Amazon price, a physical copy, just go to ultimatepodcastbook.com and go grab a copy. That is exclusively for Deal Board listeners. And if you want to have a conversation about how our process works and how it could grow your business, then shoot my assistant an email, Gabrielle at marketdominationllc.com, and we'll set up a time to talk.
Yeah, I mean, I know, Seth, you're always available. You're always out there, and you're a super busy guy. So, I appreciate everything you do, not only for the world, but Transworld as well. I thank you.
Well, you are welcome. It is my pleasure. We are thrilled to have a long-term relationship with you and with Transworld. We've worked with you for a very long time and a number of different Transworld folks, and It's always a lot of fun.
It is, and I appreciate it, and I am looking forward to the next time we get together. What's the best way to get in touch with Market Domination, other than your website, which you mentioned before, but mention it again? MarketDominationLLC.com is the website. You can email contact@MarketDominationLLC.com or my assistant, Gabrielle, at MarketDominationLLC.com, and we'll take care of you. Excellent. Seth, thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me back, Andy.
Hey, Andy, do you know what time it is?
What time?
It's time for Deal of the Week.
Ring the bell.
I'm here with Brook Hartnett in the Transworld Boston office, who recently sold an auto repair shop on the South Shore of Massachusetts. Brook, why don't you tell us a little bit about this transaction?
Yeah, it was a great local shop that had been in business around 20 years or so, with a great team in place, great local name, and the owner was looking for retirement.
And how did you go about finding this buyer?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we look for, especially with this kind of business, is folks who have some experience in it. As the business was more of an owner operator kind of business, where the seller did work in the business, really enjoyed it, had a great team around him. So that's what we thought would be a fantastic fit for a new buyer coming in, as someone with a little bit of experience and who kind of wanted to step into the day to day.
Yeah, and this buyer had industry experience, so it just seemed like a perfect fit. And you did have to manage a couple of moving parts to get this across the finish line, and you did a great job. And this is what we love to do, doing good deals for good people. So ring that bell.
Hey, JT, do you know what time it is?
Money time?
Almost. It's time for Listing of the Week.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is Listing of the Week. And I am with Ryan Armstrong of Transworld Business Advisors of Phoenix.
Yep.
And I just wanted to bring him on. He's always got great deals and great listings. What's your listing today?
So I got a great steel fabrication business in Phoenix. It's got an operations manager in place. And it's got employees and a lot of great contracts all over the valley. EBITDA is 525, so it's a larger
Nice.
business.
Yeah.
Really good business. We got it on the market for 1.8 million. The land is available too.
Wow.
So it's another option to own the land that your business is on.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of people like that. They could get a nice loan, I'm sure, for that business, right?
Yeah. If you add the loan, as you know, when you add the land in there, you can amortize it over longer.
Right.
So it makes your payments actually a little bit better when you get the loan. The land is part of the deal.
Wow. Sounds like a great listing. What's the best way to get in touch with you to learn more?
You can reach out on my cell, 480-447-350, or my email address is rarmstrong@tworld.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks for tuning in to the show today. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends on social media. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. If you have questions, would like to appear, or have suggestions for topics for the show, get in contact with us through our website, thedealboardpodcast.com.